Verse number 14. Lo yisa'as shoik sachir oni ve'evyoin ma'achecha oy migercha asher ba'atzecha b'sharecha. B'yoymoi sitein, sorry, verse number 50. B'yoymoi sitein zchoroi v'lo yisavoy alav hashemesh ki ani hu ve'elav hu no yise'es nafshoi. V'lo yikra elech el Hashem v'ayom v'cha cheit. Now, you should know there's some practical halacha over here that we're going to learn, which many people are very unfamiliar with. The idea of paying people on time, right? So let's say, for example, let's stay out of the realms of whether this is applicable to non-Jews or not applicable to non-Jews right now. Just in general, you have you phone up your local Jewish plumber to come and help you, unblock your sink, whatever it is, right? And when he finishes his work, so you need to pay him, right? And you're supposed to pay him by the end of the day. That day's work he needs to be paid for. Says the halacha like this: if you don't, then you are negating a mitzvah aseh. Over here, it's a positive mitzvah to pay somebody on time. Even though it says over here daily, it doesn't mean necessarily daily, because let's say you've got somebody working for you, and let's say you've got a carpenter working for you, right? So you don't have to pay him daily, but you should pay him according to the payment plan. So maybe it's 20% down when he first takes the job, and then 50% on completing the first part, and then the rest at the end. But whatever the payment plan is, that's what you need to do. You need to pay them on time. More than that, here I'm sure that at some point, if you ever have a business and you've got people working for you, so normally you pay somebody monthly, right, when they're working for you. So you need to know that you need to pay them on time. So let's say the first of the month is the day that the person gets paid. Then on the first of the month they need to get paid, and if they don't get paid on time, then what's happened is it's negating a positive mitzvah. However, there are certain details over here that need to be taken into account. What happens if you don't have? That's something which can definitely happen, right? You set money aside. I don't know. You put your car in, right, and you set money aside to pay the mechanic, and it turns out to be more than you thought that it was going to be. Or somebody came and you had to take an urgent loan, and you don't have the money right now. What do you do in that case? Says the halacha, if you can't pay it back, you're not obligated. If you can't pay it back, to go and take a loan from somewhere else in order to pay back on the day that you're supposed to pay. You can push it off, but if you push it off, you're not fulfilling the mitzvah over here of paying somebody on time, and that's only applicable, right, when the person doesn't have the money. If you've got the money and you just can't be bothered to pay them, that's something else.
What if he did some work, and they set a price? Then at the end of the day, he says, it costs more. I had to put it in different parts. So he has money for the
yeah.
But he doesn't have.
So it's an interesting question. It really is. The person, you're obligated to pay what you agreed to. That's for sure, according to all opinions. The question over here is the extra, right? Am I obligated right now on the day that the person finishes the work? Am I obligated to pay him for the extra that I wasn't aware of when the work began? So again, there are disagreements inside of the poskim, inside of the authorities. If you can do it, it's the right thing to do. If you don't have it, then you can tell him, look, I'm sorry, I don't have it right now, but mitzvah Hashem, come back tomorrow, or come back at the end of the week, and I'll get it to you. Right, but it's interesting, right? An inyan over here, again, it's the same thread that's threading through, which means somebody comes and does work for you, then you need to take their dignity into account, which means that you agreed to pay them a certain amount of money, and therefore that's what you should do. You should pay them whatever it is, and you should pay them on time as well.
What about somebody that has money?
Yeah, good. Again, good question, right? What does the Torah got against rich people? Nothing at all.
I mean, there's rich people that there is transactions.
For sure. What the Torah is saying is like this. The Torah is saying that first of all, somebody who's got money is obviously that if he doesn't get paid today, so he'll get paid tomorrow, he'll get paid next week, but at least he's still got food that he can put on the table, right? Yeah. The poor person, normally what used to happen, certainly up until not till very long ago in history, was that people were paid a daily wage. which means you came to work, you got paid. You got paid, you had enough money now to go and put food on the table. The next day, and then you don't have anything left, and then the next day you go out and you do it again. There was an Indian, I once heard, I don't know if this is true or not actually, but I once heard that one of the reasons why they introduced weekly wages as opposed to daily wages was because in a certain socio in a certain level of people, they were drinking their wages before they got home. Right? They would go into the bar on the way home and they would drink, rather large amounts, and then whatever they'd earned for that day ended up being drunk, and so they came into the idea of putting getting involved in who it was and who it wasn't, right? So somebody came up with the idea of maybe we pay them weekly, maybe that would be better. Of course, it wasn't terribly successful because all the bars did was just offer credit instead. And at the end of the week, you had to pay your bill. So by the time, it was going out one end and whatever. And then I guess it became monthly. I don't know. Interestingly enough, there were shuls in Eastern Europe where the custom was to pay the rabbi yearly. Right? He would get paid once per year.
So what happens if he left his job halfway through the year?
Oh, then there would have to be a reckoning. Right, it could be that again, I don't know, but it could be that there was some kind of an agreement that if he'd been there for long enough, and if it was towards the end of the year, maybe he was allowed to keep whatever it was. I can't remember who it was, but I remember reading about a rabbi who died on the day of the end of his year. And that the rabbi's family were very happy because if he would have died like a week later, he would have been paid for a year, the year coming up, and then whatever. It's just different ways of paying people. Whatever the payment system is, you need to pay somebody on time. HaKadosh Baruch Hu looks after the poor. Rabbi Moshe, that's part of what's going on. That's why HaKadosh Baruch Hu is telling you the whole time. You got to be careful with them, right? And you've got to take their feelings into account, and you've got to be sensitive, and you've got to act with dignity, right? All of those things are there. Why? Because HaKadosh Baruch Hu takes care of the poor. He looks after the poor, right? And that's something that we need to take into account. Lo yumtu avot al banim, ubanim lo yumtu al avot, ish becheto yumtu. So along comes the Torah, and it says like this, that fathers are not going to die because of what their sons have done, and sons are not going to die because of what their fathers have done, and you should die for your own sin. It's one of these upbeat, happy verses that sort of leave things in a little bit in perspective over here, right? Well, what's the problem? We have a verse in a different place where it says that the sins of the fathers will be meted upon the children, right? It will be the sins of the fathers will be given to the children. Over here it says that the fathers will have their own sins to deal with, and the children have their own sins to deal with.
But it's not only that. It says over here by Rashi, no one would be found guilty based on the testimony of relatives.
Right.
Go back a second, where the mother had to bring the thing.
The parents.
Yeah. The parents had to bring that. Yeah. So sure, the Torah is contradicting himself, because he's saying you are. Do you know what I mean?
No, here it's the other way around though. It's saying that you're not going to get convicted by relatives. Over there, it's proving that she's innocent.
But then I don't get
that. The Torah is always, like the Jewish law is always going to be weighted towards trying to find whatever you can do to make somebody innocent. Right, so the idea of the Torah coming along and saying that it's forbidden for a relative to come and give testimony that the person they're testifying for is innocent, it's inconceivable. In order for a relative to come and say that somebody is guilty of something, that's something else.
Okay, so let's say that let's say that there's a big situation where there was a family money pot or whatever, and you saw one of your brother or your sister or whatever stealing money from that money pot. You saw it yourself. You then go to court. Should you then be a witness?
So here, first of all, you need to have two witnesses,
Yeah.
right? If we're talking about a Jewish court, presumably, right? So you have to have two
Family cannot
witnesses.
be witness.
Huh?
Families cannot.
Family, I'm just, the emphasis is like this. I
Right.
am trying to remember. There are certainly certain instances where it's forbidden for family to be witnesses. For example, you can't have a witness in a wedding ceremony, right? If the person's related to either the chosen or the kala, then it's forbidden for them to be a relative. I'm just trying to remember if it's forbidden for a relative to come to Beis Din to testify against somebody else, against one of their relatives, and the emphasis I can't remember. I need to look into it. I can't remember.
Okay.
However, right? Let's have a look at the part. How are we going to juggle these two? We got a verse which is telling us that you're gonna deal. You're only going to have to deal with your own sins. You're not going to have to deal with the sins of your father, and your father won't have to deal with your sins. And then we've got a verse which tells us that children are going to end up paying for the sins of their fathers. It says, "Kel kana pakoid avoin avot al banim al shileshim v'aribim l'soinoi." It says that HaKadosh Baruch Hu visits the sins of the fathers upon the children to the third and the fourth generation. Right? So how are we supposed to juggle these two verses? We've got a verse over here in Exodus which is saying that parents, you're going to have to pay for your parents' sins. And we've got a verse over here in Dvarim which is telling us that you only have to worry about your own sins, you don't have to worry about your parents' sins. So the Mefarshim explains something very fundamental over here, which is you're only going to have to pay for your parents' sins if you carry on in their ways. Right? Which means that if you've got a parent who's doing, things which are forbidden, and the child then carries on in the same way that the father was going or that the mother was going, then at that point they're going to be met not only with their own sin, but they're going to be met with the sins of the father as well, of the parent as well. However, if the child doesn't follow in the sin, everybody sins, right? But if a child is sinning in his own way and he's not following a particular path that his father has taken, then he'll only have to worry about the sins that he's done. He won't have to worry about the sins that his father has done. Certain things. It's quite fascinating actually, how children very often follow the things that parents do, even sometimes it's just completely subconscious as well. They did a study a few decades ago. I don't know, things may have changed by now, but they did a study a few decades ago about children of doctors. The percentage of children whose parents are doctors who become doctors is much higher. In those days anyway, I don't know, today I've got no idea what's going on, but it wouldn't surprise me if nothing has changed because, you pick up what's going on at home. Right? So you see your father or your mother is a doctor, and it instills in you a certain affinity towards becoming a doctor. I imagine it's probably the same with other professions as well, right? One thing for sure is that we know that if you want your children to keep the mitzvahs and if you want your children to learn Torah, well, the most obvious way of getting them to do that is for them to see you doing that, right? Let them see you learning Torah, let them see you keeping mitzvahs, and then hopefully they'll follow in your way. When you've got a parent who's doing something which is wrong, then the chances are that the children are going to be doing the same wrong thing as well, or with a variation of some kind. It's a little bit of a worry. It really is. I'm not kidding. As a parent, parent is like a most incredible responsibility because, you're supposed to be this positive role model for your kid in order for your kid to be able to grow up well balanced and with a positive outlook on life, and it's dependent very much upon you. So, and parenting again, it's like until you become a parent, you've never done it before, and by the time you become a parent, it's too late to work out that you haven't got a clue what you're doing. So, something to look forward to, right?
Characteristics are almost like genetics.
Yeah, it's that's something which is even more bothersome. It's even more worrisome. You can work on yourself to maybe you've got like a negative characteristic and you work on yourself and you iron it out of you. You get rid of it, and then boom, in the next generation, there it is. It's like you spent hours and effort trying to work on this and to make yourself better and to make sure that it's not going to overcome you again, and then there it is in the next generation, just cropping up out of genetics. we've got physical genetics and we've got spiritual genetics as well, right? Which means what you'll find very, very often is that when you've got parents who have a home which is full of warmth and open and lots of guests coming through and you know, one of the places that maybe you've been there for Shabbos and you've felt the most incredible sense of just feeling comfortable over there, you'll see very often that children have homes that are the same. Because that's what they know. That's what they see a home is all about.
But they represent. They're like part of the whole picture. If you go to one of those families that are extremely welcoming, the kids act in that way.
They're part of the tapestry over there in that house. So when they set up their own home, it's becomes like a natural thing. I'll tell you something interesting. I got a question. One of the things that I do is I answer questions for Ask the Rabbi services. I got a question the other day, which I thought was quite fascinating, actually, from a couple who became frum about 20 years ago. They're now in their 60s. They were married already, and over the space of time, they became more interested. They became frum, and they made a commitment 20 years ago. They became, completely committed to keeping the Torah and keeping the mitzvahs. And now 20 plus years later, he's writing in, he wants, if I can recommend some books about marriage, the Jewish concept of marriage, because he says, they've seen lots of very beautiful marriages inside of the Orthodox community, but they feel that they're missing, certain foundations are missing inside of their own marriage because they began their marriage before they became frum. And I know for me it's a very fascinating, very interesting idea because if they've been married for they've been married, I don't know how much, certainly longer than 20 years, that's for sure. And if their marriage is a successful marriage, you would have thought that what do they need some kind of a primer for? What do they need to read these books for? But what they're saying is that their marriage is perhaps based on things. Maybe there are things missing because they weren't frum when they got married. Just within not within the halachic dimension of the marriage, but within the emotional dimension of the marriage, within the other dimensions, the spiritual dimension of the marriage. I thought it's a very fascinating idea. Over here, what the Pasuk is saying quite clearly, that a child who does not follow in the bad path of a parent is not going to be held accountable for what the parent has done, and a child who follows the wrong path, the parent is not going to be held accountable. If the parent is not responsible for what happened, then the parent won't be held accountable for what's happened either. Right? So here now, Moshe, we've got another verse over here that's talking about people who need to be looked after, not just the poor. Lo yisate mishpat gei yatom v'lo yisachvol beged almana. V'zacharta ki eved ha'isa b'mitzrayim v'yiftecha Hashem Elokecha misham hakenu nochim etzavecha la'asos hadavar hazeh. The Torah, HaKadosh Baruch Hu keeps emphasizing, it appears on several occasions inside of the Chumash, the idea of orphans and widows. HaKadosh Baruch Hu takes care of the orphans and the widows. And that means that one has to be very careful with the way that one interacts with orphans and widows, because they don't have somebody to take care of them. I don't remember, don't ask me where the verse is, I don't remember it offhand right now, but there's a verse which, when it talks about the orphans and the widows, HaKadosh Baruch Hu looking after them, every word is doubled up. It appears twice. So if you cause them to cry out. If you cause them pain. Right? So the Mefarshim ask a very simple question. Why is the Chumash doubling up the words? Why is it repeating itself? And it's explaining, because when a person brings pain and anguish to an orphan or to a widow, it's double. Right? Why?
It also affects Hashem.
No, hold on a second. We're going to get to Hashem in a minute. Just for them it's double. Why is it double for them? Because they don't have anybody to stand up for them. Right? Which means that when a kid comes home, he's been beaten up in school, right? And he comes home and he tells his dad. So then his dad can go down to the school and he can go sort things out, right? When a wife has been mistreated, in a shop somewhere, right? So she can come home and tell her husband, and her husband will go down and complain.
Yeah, it links to the previous verse about the sort of relationship of the sins between a father and a son, and the verse before that.
It's like a thread. They're all threaded together. The thread that's threading them together, of course, is this concept of being, having your sensitivities finely tuned. Right? We need to be in tune with what it is that God wants us to do. So explain the Mefarshim, the reason why that verse, the words are doubled up, is because when a person hurts a child, so good, he hurt the child, finished. But when a person hurts an orphan, he hurts the child, and then the child is reminded that he's an orphan because he's got no father to go back and complain to, which means that the hurt is double, and HaKadosh Baruch Hu is going to take care of that. Right? Because HaKadosh Baruch Hu is looked upon as being the father of the orphans. Like when a wife is upset, so she can go to her husband and he can take care of it. So that's one dimension that needs to be taken care of. But when a person upsets a widow, so she's got no one to go back to and complain to, so the hurt is double. She's reminded now that she doesn't have a husband, and it enhances the pain that she's going through, and that's going to, again, it's double. Now the Kodesh Baruch Hu is going to pay twice. The punishment is going to be twice as much as it would have been. Yeah.
So you're not supposed to hurt by your speech, for example.
Yeah.
A widow. So what if they say something that's like kind of wicked, and it just your response, your reaction before you can think about and act appropriately, you say something that might be offensive because of something they said.
Yeah.
Is that a sin?
Is it a sin? I don't know. It's a very delicate thing to have to deal with, right? Is it a sin? Possibly. I think it very much depends on all the details, right? It depends on what was said. It depends on what the reply was, right? It depends on I don't know. It depends on all kinds of things. The relationship that existed before between the two people. It is conceivable that it might not be a sin. I would imagine it probably is.
Probably is, yeah.
Right? The Vilna Gaon has got the most incredible thing. He says like this. He says it's based on the words of the sages, that a person, not just anybody, right? A person who is somebody offends them, and he does not react, and he does not talk back in the same way. The Vilna Gaon says that person is privy to a certain spiritual light that even the angels in the heavens are not privy to.
But isn't it true that you're supposed to confront the fellow before you hate them in your heart? You should confront the person, right?
Yeah, so I think we're talking about two different things over here, which means like this. What the Vilna Gaon is saying is that when somebody says something offensive to you and you don't react, right? He says that the reward for not reacting is something enormous.
But what if when you don't react, you...
Oh, so that's something else. So then you have to work on yourself, right, afterwards, in order to try to get rid of that residue of bad feeling. Which again, it's not always something which can be done. I often tell people, somebody does something which is really, it's truly awful, right? So what, you're just supposed to shrug it off and say it's okay? No, it'll sit in there. I mean, the real reason, if you ask me, to work on getting rid of those feelings is because they're toxic. They're toxic for you, not for the other person. Here, you were a good boy. You didn't react, so the person doesn't realize how much they've hurt you, right? But you're walking around with this belly full of acid that's sitting there, and it's very, very corrosive. It really is. And the best thing that a person can do is try to get it out of their system, right? Not by confronting the other person, but by just getting it out of their system, by working on themselves to just to allow it to seep out.
But he gets a bigger mitzvah by nuts.
Oh, the Vilna Gaon says enormous, right?
But isn't it a mitzvah to also confront?
No.
No?
No.
The verse says
it depends.
You shouldn't hate your brother.
Oh, so it says like this, right? So it says like this, right? It says by the brothers of Yosef. It says, that they didn't get on so great, yeah? So it says over there, V'lo yachlu ledabro ito b'shalom. They couldn't speak with him nicely. And the word shalom is spelt without a vav. So it doesn't matter. The way that you vowel it, you can spell it can sound like shalom, but really when you spell shalom, it should be shin lamed vav mem.
So explain the Meforshim, explain the commentaries. Why is it missing a Vav? Because even though Shalem, right? But it's interesting, even though they were not prepared to pretend that everything was okay, and they showed him that they didn't like him, and they showed him they were unhappy with him, nevertheless there was something missing from their shalom, from their peace, which means they weren't doing it the right way. Right? When it says that you shouldn't hate somebody in your heart, what does that mean? So if the person is open to your coming to them and saying, look, you said X, Y, and Z, or you did whatever you did, and you should know it really hurt me. And until today, I feel hurt from what you did, then for sure that's the best thing to do.
Can you say that to a
Yeah, so long as you word it carefully, right? So long as it's gentle, you can come and you can say, look, I'm sorry to bring this to your attention, but the other day you said whatever you said, and it really hurt. And then hopefully, if that person's not aggressive and that person's not confrontational, they'll say, oh my gosh, I'm so terribly sorry.
But then they're gonna feel bad, kind of.
That's okay, because that's bad for a good reason, right? The badness over here that's being spoken about, this idea of HaKadosh Baruch Hu looking after, is when somebody comes and does bad things to an orphan or to a widow, it's doubled up, right? But when you're doing things, you're not doing anything bad. The fact that they feel bad is a result of what they did, not of what you did. Right? You're just coming to draw their attention to what they did.
So it's basically don't do anything that's downright evil or bad to an orphan.
You know what? I don't know. I think it's more complicated than that. Which means that when it comes to orphans and widows, you've got to be careful what you say and how you say it as well. Which means that for somebody else you might say, listen, you bum, you bumped into me yesterday and you made me spill my drink, But for a widow, for an orphan, you've got to be a lot more careful about how you say it, that you shouldn't cause them unnecessary hurt.
It's beautiful.
Right? And it's, again, it's hard. It's hard. All of these things, I tell you, the truth of the matter is this concept of human dignity is always hard. You know why? Because we imagine that we imagine that we are supposed to be respected. We imagine that we have respect coming to us, and if people don't respect us, then it means that they've done something to me personally. The Mishnah in Pirkei Avos says like this: Ezer or mechubad, who is somebody who's honorable? The word kavod, what does kavod mean? Honored, respected, right? So here, if I were to ask you, I don't know if anybody here knows the answer to the Mishnah. If you do, so don't blurt it out right now. But if I were to ask you, how would you, who is an honorable person? What would you say? Or who is an honored person? Who is a person who has kavod? What would you say?
Rabbi.
It's fantastic, right? What we would all say somebody who's done something to deserve our respect, right? No? I mean, it could be a spiritual mentor. It could be a physical mentor. It could be anybody or anything, right? Eizahum amechubad. We would say, who do you respect? Somebody who is deserving of our respect, right?
Parents, for example.
Parents, for example, right? Or again, the list is long. You know what the Mishnah in Pirkei Avos says? Eizah amechubad hamechabed et habriot. Who is respected? Somebody who respects other people. Isn't that astonishing? That is the one thing that we wouldn't come up with, right? If we were to sit here and brainstorm to see who is mechubad, we would come up with all different kinds of ideas, I'm sure, right? But the one idea that we would not come up with between us is that Ezer mechubad hamechabed et habriot. You are respected if you respect other people. You hear? Ibn Ezra, one of the classic commentaries on Pirkei Avos, he says like this. He says, you can't have something that you don't have yourself. You can't give something that you don't have yourself. Right? If you respect other people, what are you really showing by the fact that you're respecting other people? What are you showing? That you have respect. You yourself are someone who is full of that kavod, and you're able to give it to other people. You're able to give it out.
It's a fascinating idea. It really is. Which means kavod is something that we have to give kavod. We have to give honor to other people.
And don't look for cover. And Rabbi, he wrote part of the Pirkei Avos. He says the one that sits covered will never cut away.
Yeah. Run away from it. Right? If you run after it, you'll never catch it up. The concept of dignity, the concept of speaking with other people, right? Like the Mishnah Pirkei always says, "B'seiv upon him yofa." You should greet everybody with a smile. You should be happy that you're able to interact with other people. We'll just move on over here, right? And then what's the next thing? And you'll see how it fits in. It's all very neat, clipping in one after the other. Ki sigzor ketzicha b'sadeh v'shachachta oime b'sadeh lo yis Hashem lekachta l'gei yasam v'amana yiyeh leman yirecha Hashem lekecha b'chol ma'aseh yadecha. You got a field and you left some bits and pieces behind when you were doing the harvesting. You left an omer is a certain amount of wheat or whatever crop it is that you're harvesting over there. If you forgot it, just leave it. Let the poor people and let the orphans and let the widows, let them be able to pick it up and let them get benefit from it. It's okay. HaKadosh Baruch Hu will pay you back whatever you've taken. Yeah.
But that's only your field. If that's your If like in front of your house you have an orange tree or something.
Oh,
should you apply that?
good. No. I mean, again, are you obligated to apply it? No.
It's praiseworthy to do it.
I imagine it's probably praiseworthy, but you know what? I'm even that I'm not sure about. I'll tell you why. Here with the field, there are a whole series of measurements that a person is obligated to make sure that the poor people are given. Right? So, for example, you've got a corner of your field that you've got to give aside for the poor people to be able to glean from. If you leave up to an omer of produce in there, you should leave it aside and let the person. If you've got an orange tree growing in your front lawn, you don't. There's nothing within the Torah which says that a certain amount of those oranges belong to you, and the certain amount have to be given to the poor people. Which means like this: if you are not. I mean, you can be as generous as you want with your orange tree, right? And it can be understood that people can come in and pick your oranges. But you need to know that you probably won't have any oranges for yourself. Now, if you're okay with that, then yes, I guess that's a praiseworthy thing to do. It's very nice, yeah? But if not, then it's not a great thing to do, which means that a tree that's growing in your front lawn belongs to you. The produce that's growing on that tree belongs to you. No one else has the right to walk into your front lawn, right, into your garden and start picking your oranges.
But you can go ahead and come anytime and get it.
Only during the year of Shemitah. Not during the other 6 years.
That's in Israel.
In Israel, yeah. So here, for example, I saw my in-laws used to live in a place where there were homes with gardens, and they had trees that, some of these trees were laden down with fruit. And some of the people had signs up outside their homes saying any of the fruit that was, spilling out onto the street, so you feel free to take it. Right? But the fruit that's on the garden side, no, that belongs to them. You can't take that, and if you take that, then you're taking something which is not yours. Yeah.
So Shemitah is applicable only to the poor, is that correct? Or?
No, Shemitah is applicable to everybody, actually, because what happens in Shemitah is your orange tree is no longer yours. Right, so when it's growing in your front lawn and it's got fruit growing off it, you can come out and you can pick. Let's say you eat an orange a day, so you can come out and pick your orange a day without any problem at all. But you can't pick more than that. And the other fruit that's growing there, in theory, is open to anybody who wants to come in. They can come and they can take that fruit.
So I have another question. When we talk about, for example, this on the margin is a gift to the poor from the harvest.
Yeah.
So. Does the Torah have a working definition of who is poor and who is not?
Yes and no. It's interesting, right? The truth of the matter is like this. There is no working definition for these halachas over here to do with fields. There is, interestingly enough, halachic definitions of what's poor and what's not with regards to what to do with charity money. You know, most communities in the olden days would have a communal fund, right? And people who needed were supported through the communal fund. The communal fund has to have a way of being able to define who has to have and who doesn't have to have, right? And over there, already inside of the Mishnah, it talks about, you know, what's considered to be poor, what's not considered to be poor. The Mishnah talks about if you've got just a tiny little bit more, right? Let's say if you've got $100, you're $100 and less, you're poor, right? But $100.50, you're not poor anymore. Right? If you've got $100.50, you've just got stuffed because you're not going to be supported by the communal fund. Right? With regards to the stuff in the fields, I don't know. I think perhaps the concept is that no one is really going to go. It's rather an embarrassing thing to have to do, to go and glean in the fields. Everybody can see you, right? And everybody knows that you're there simply because you're poor. So I think perhaps a general consensus is that there is no definition of who's poor and who's not, because somebody who's prepared to do that, even if they've got food at home, I mean, maybe they really are poor. They're just poor, in a different way. I saw a cute saying from Rav Naftali Miropchitz, one of the great Hasidic Rebbes. He says that he feels sorry for all the people who live their lives as misers in order to die as rich people. It's true, right? And, there are people that they live their lives as misers and they've got plenty of money. They could live in a different way altogether, but they choose not to. And when they die, all of a sudden it becomes clear they were rich when they died. Did it help them any? Didn't help, right? So if you've got somebody, he might be a rich fellow who's out in the fields gleaning, I guess in a certain way he's as poor as can be, because if he thinks that's what he has to do, then things are not good. Here, let's talk about whipping, shall we? There you go. That sort of got everybody a little bit more excited, huh? It says like this: Ki yeriv. We're talking about new chapter 25. Ki yeriv ben anashim v'nikshu el hamishpat u'shafatatum v'tzdiku et hatzadik v'yirishu et harasha. So first of all, they come to court, and the court. It's interesting. It's not that he finds one of them guilty and one of them innocent, but rather it's stiku et tzaddik, the righteous one has been found righteous and the evil one has been found to be evil, right? Vaya im ben hakois harosha, and if he has to have lashes, right, we're talking about biblical lashes over here, v'ipilu hashofet v'yikol lefonav kedei v'shasoi b'mispar. So he's gonna be given lashes. How many lashes? Arba'im yakenu lo yosif pen yosif la'akoisoi al eila makaraba v'nikla achechel einecha lo yisachsoim shobidisha. Sorry, finished, right? 40 lashes is the maximum. However, it says in a different place, it says 40 lashes minus 1. That really the maximum amount of lashes that a person can get is 39, not 40. He says the Maharal, if that's the case, why does the Torah talk about 40 lashes? Even in the previous place, it says 40 minus 1. It doesn't say 39. So it explains the Maharal like this. There are a maximum of 39 external lashes. What is the point of the lashes?
Punishment.
Keep going. Not just punishment.
So it doesn't do it again.
So there has to be some form of atonement over here as well, which means that we're not punishing for the sake of punishment over here. We're punishing in order for the person to realize they've done something wrong, that not only does it need to be atoned for physically with the lashes, but it needs to be atoned for spiritually. So explains the Maharal, 39 physical lashes, that's the maximum. But the 40th lash has to be an internal one. A person's got to understand, give it to himself, right? To understand that he's done something that he should never have done. However, just in case anybody here was the least bit concerned, but it doesn't actually look like you are. But 39 lashes, that's a lot of lashes, it really is. So the Gemara learns out like this, a couple of halachas, very interesting. First of all, the halacha is that the lashes have to move up in groups of 3, which means that 3 is the minimum amount of lashes, 39 is the maximum amount of lashes. Any multiple of 3 will do. How do you work out how many? So everybody is supposed to get 39 lashes. However, if it looks like the person is not capable of withstanding 39 lashes, so they'll estimate how many the person looks like he's going to be able to take. And if during the period that he's being whipped, it's clear that he's not standing up to the pressure of what's going on, then they'll stop. The Gemara says that if the person being whipped is in such a state that he passes water whilst he's being whipped, then at that point you stop. Which it's interesting, right? This concept of dignity is something which runs its way through. You don't have to care about the dignity just of the nice people, right? Just of the good people. We have to care about the dignity of the not so nice people as well. The people that are being punished inside of court. It says like this, for example, a person who's killed. So the body is taken after the person has been executed by the Beis Din. The body is taken and it's hung up on a tree in order to show everybody what has happened. However, you're not allowed to leave a body overnight, which means that as soon as the sun sets, the body has to be taken down. So all executions were done right before sunset. That the dignity of the person who's been killed and the dignity of the people of his family should try to keep it intact as much as possible to keep it intact. Here, verse number 5. Ki yeshvu achim yachdav umeis echad mem uvein ein loy yisye eishes hameis achutza leish zar. We're now coming into something which is very, very difficult. It's a very esoteric concept. Something called the levirate marriage. What is a levirate marriage? Yibum, right? Yibum and chalitza. What is yibum? You've got a couple that are married to each other. They don't have any children. The husband dies. So says the Torah that instead of the wife now becoming a widow and being able to go get married to whoever she wants, she should really get married to the brother of the husband. Don't look at me like that. Why? That the first child that they have is going to be like a continuity of the deceased brother. Do we understand these things properly? No, not really, right?
Maybe she got pregnant from the brother.
When? How? Which?
Should be firstborn. Are we talking?
Which brother?
The one that's alive.
Yeah, for sure. Only after. Again, what happens? The brother dies. You have to wait a period of 3 months to make sure that she's not pregnant. And then she's supposed to marry her husband's brother. And the first child that they have together is considered to be a continuity of the brother that passed away. Again, when it says that, Al Shem Achiv Ameis, it doesn't mean that the child has to be named after the deceased brother. We're talking about spiritual things over here. We're talking about very, very spiritual concepts that are very difficult to understand for us. But what happens if they don't want to marry each other? Right? Which is perfectly conceivable. He doesn't want to get married to her. She has to now come to the Beis Din and she has to tell the Beis Din, he doesn't want to marry me. What's going to be now? And he says he absolutely is adamant that he doesn't want to marry her. Listen carefully to what happens over here. There's a whole ceremony taking place. It's called chalitza. That they come in front of the Beis Din, right? The widow and her late husband's brother. V'cholza naloi ma'al ragloi. She takes off his shoe, his sandal. V'yorko b'fonav, and she spits in front of him, not on him. V'onsa v'omra kocha yaseh leisha shelo yivnes beis achiv. This is what happens to somebody who doesn't want to build his brother's home. V'nikra shmoi b'Yisrael beis chalutz hana'al. And this is called Beit Chalutz Hanal. That's where the word chalitza comes from the word chalutz. So let go. What's going on? So the Malbim has got the most incredible explanation over here. In spiritual terms, the brother was supposed to marry his sister-in-law, right? He didn't want to do it. By not doing it, what is he doing? He's, in a certain way, he's stopping his brother's continuity, right? So what does she do? There's a ceremony. She takes off his sandal. Says the Malbim like this, it's most incredible explanation. You know what the symbolism of shoes are?
Humility.
How do you get to humility?
Read something before that has to do with that. I don't know if I'm right.
So the truth is, it works the other way around, that taking off your shoes is normally a sign of humility. And it says by Moshe Rabbeinu, when he came to the burning bush, that HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, Shal na'alecha me'al raglecha, take your shoes off because you're standing in a holy place. Right? There's an idea over here of shoes. If anything, shoes give you the ability to be able to walk around here in the physical world. Right? Your feet are sensitive.
And therefore, by taking off your shoes, you're not walking around in the physical world anymore.
Hold on a second, one second, right? You're a step ahead, right? Let's just build it up. Says the Malbim like this. Your shoes to your feet are the same as the body to the soul. Which means that your feet are very sensitive. In order for you to be able to walk around over here in the physical world, you have to wear shoes, right? To be able to go wherever you want. He explains the Malbim, your soul is too sensitive to live down here, to exist in the physical realms. It has to exist within the physical body. Which means that the body serves the purpose of the shoes to the feet. That's what the body does to the neshama, to the soul. When this person says that he doesn't want to marry his sister-in-law, what's he saying? That he doesn't want to continue his brother's soul. He doesn't want to continue this. In terms of imagery, what has he just done? It's as if he's taken off the shoe, right? It's as if he said, no, I'm not going to do this. The soul of my brother won't be able to come back down here into the physical realms because I won't give the body, this new child, I won't give that in order for the soul to be able to be here. Says the Malbim, what does she do? She takes off his sandal. She takes off his shoe. And it's very, very symbolic. He wouldn't do what was required of him, therefore she symbolically takes off his shoe in order to show that that's what he's doing.
Why does she have to do it?
Huh?
Why does she have to?
Because they're supposed to be in partnership together.
Why do you do it? I mean, like, the shoe should be taken off by him. It's going through the motions of what they
No, so in effect, what's going on? It's interesting. It says the Gemara like this. It's a fascinating. Are these people married? They're not married, right? And yet she's not really. She's not a widow in the standard standard understanding. She's not a widow. A widow can go and get married to anybody, right? She can't get married to anybody right now because even though she's not married to the brother-in-law, there is a connection between them that has to be broken, which means that she has to be an active participant in the ceremony. That's what's going to break the connection between them.
What's the halacha today?
We'll get to halacha in 1 minute, right? There's just one more detail over here. What does she do? She spits in front of him. Why does she spit in front of him? It's not the nicest thing to do. I mean, oh, you're English, you probably think it is, but in general, it's not the nicest thing to do. What's the pshat? So explain. It's the most incredible idea. Explain the rabbis like this. Spit has a visual resemblance to semen, to human seed. And when she spits in front of him, it's what is she doing? It's symbolic of the idea that
this seed that was supposed to bring the continuity of the late brother into this world is going to waste. It's not going to be used. So she spits in front of it. It's a very poignant ceremony. Now, it's a very important ceremony because I would imagine under many circumstances there is no desire between the brother-in-law and his sister-in-law to get married. They don't want to get married to each other. You can have all kinds of situations. For example, you can have a brother-in-law who's 14 years old, right, and she's 30 years old. It's just like the practical problems over here. What is the halacha today? The halacha for many years in the Ashkenazi world has been, because the Gemara says that in order to fulfill the mitzvah of Yibum, it needs to be done l'shem shamayim. It's got to be done with your intent has to be pure. Say the rabbis, because that is very often not the case and it's impossible to really measure that. So in the Ashkenazi world, Yibum has always been Chalitza has always been the favored option. So today, it's very rare to find a case of Yibum. Rav Avadia Yosef, Zecher Tzadik Livracha, right? He was of the opinion that Yibum was fine and that it was a mitzvah to do Yibum. But in most communities nowadays, you won't find a brother-in-law marrying his late brother's widow, right?
There's also a practical problem because in the time of the Torah, polygamy was permitted, and now assuming, it's a...
Oh, good. Oh, that's for sure. If everybody's...
The brothers are more likely to have their own family.
Yeah, no, for sure. Then at that point, good. You're right. I should have mentioned that for sure. Right. That's a very practical dimension over there. Then for sure, Yibum is going to come. Chalitza is going to come into play for sure. Right. But even when you've got a brother who is available, in the Ashkenazi communities, the accepted norm is not to do Yibum; it's to do Chalitza. In the other communities, the Sephardi communities, again, it depends. Many people rule in exactly the same way, and some people, like Rabbi Avadia Yosef, rules that Yibum is acceptable and that it's okay to do it. Not only is it okay to do it, but it's a big mitzvah to do it as well. Again.
You know of cases today with
Chalitza? Chalitza, yeah. Again, Baruch Hashem. It's not a very common thing. Baruch Hashem, but yeah, every now and then we've got cases of people having to go through Chalitza. And the Beis Din, a Beis Din that deals with Chalitza actually has a special boot that they use. It's pretty open, but it's something which fits onto the leg, and it's got leather thongs that go around it, and then she has to undo that and take it off, and that's the way that they fulfill the mitzvah over here. Okay, it doesn't happen very often, but when it does happen, it's something which needs to be done.
Before she does that, she's still considered an Ashes?
She is considered to be in betwixt and in between, which means she's not an Ashes Ish because she's not married, but she is not in a position to be able to get married to anybody either.
I'm talking about the idea of, touching the shoe, touching him. That's what I'm trying to do.
Oh, I see. No, that's okay. I mean, again, there is no, again, the way that this thing is built, the shoe that they put on, there is no real physical contact between them. Yeah.
In the next verse,
yes,
it mentions a certain thing, which I don't really understand. It says, if men fight with one another...
Oh, we spoke about that the other day. That's what David Moshe was getting concerned about.
What?
This idea of the bit about cutting off the hand.
No, the bit before that, I don't get that bit. So she stretched out her hand across and embarrassed him, place she was going, what does that mean?
It means that she grabbed him in the groin area.
Right, fine.
Right, and caused not only, again, what was the Parshat? We spoke about this idea of different gradations of damage when you do something to somebody, right? One of them is embarrassment, which means that you can punch somebody in the face. Not you would never do such a thing, right? But one can punch somebody in the face and you do damage, right? So the damage has to be paid for. But if you punch somebody in the face in front of, 1,000 people, right? So according to the halacha, not only now is there a problem of medical expenses
perhaps work expenses because you can't go to work right now, there's an additional dimension of embarrassment in front of other people. And that's what this is talking about over here, that what she did, again, if she would have just pushed him away, that's one thing. But grabbing him a hold of where she grabbed a hold of him, that's something else, and that's got an additional dimension of embarrassment that goes together with it.
Cool.
Good.